So earlier I released a video on the plateau, which was somewhat of a philosophical discussion with myself about when you hit a plateau trying to improve and how do we overcome it, but also just, that it's okay to hit a plateau, that it's also okay to just stay on that plateau if you want. But I figured might as well make a video about how to get better. This is not a tutorial video, but I will actually talk about those. And I guess let's just get started. As we all know, flipping Balisongs it's a skill toy. Let's be real, it's a toy and it's a skill-based toy. And I think part of what's really fun about it is that there's what feels like basically a virtually infinite ceiling of getting better. Um, but how do we get better? Hi, Kyo. That's my son. I love him. First things first. Getting better is a combination of two things: improving what you already know and mastering that, as well as learning new things and expanding your repertoire, pushing your boundaries. And so that's kind of two different things. So it's okay to practice what you already know and get better at it. And it's also okay to screw up when you're learning new things. So when you are learning new things, I recommend that you use a trainer. Also, having a designated balisong that you use to learn. I have a very robust collection, but when I'm trying to learn a new trick, I always use my Orion 1.5. Despite this being one of my most inexpensive balisongs, it's also one of my favorites, and it does everything I want it to do, and it's a trainer. If you are using a live blade, however, don't be afraid to put tape on the edges and the tip. It is a great way of protecting yourself when learning new tricks without damaging the blade permanently. I personally sand down my blades a little bit with like 5,000 grit sandpaper because I use my knives more for flipping purposes than for knife purposes. But if you want to keep the integrity of your knife's sharpness, but you want to learn on it, if you're learning a new balisong, whether it's as a collection, feel free to put tape on it. It's totally okay. It's very reasonable and it saves you a lot of band-aids. So here I am with my designated. Oh my god, sir. Alright, here I am with my designated balisong that I learned tricks on, my Orion 1.5. The basic building blocks of all tricks, you're going to want to know your basic opening, basic fan, chaplains, and then rollovers. I'm just going to do a Zen rollover here, and then aerial, if hopefully I don't botch it up on camera. I didn't botch it on camera. So those are basically the building blocks of every trick. Obviously, there are exceptions, but for the most part, I think it's pretty uncontroversial to say basic opening, chaplain, fans, rollovers, and aerials are kind of the basis of everything. When you learn those, that's kind of where you're just beginning. I recommend using Squid Industries tutorials. I think they're very well produced and they have really good slow motion and it's well paced. I also recommend Big Flips, which I'll get to later. Personally, I think Squid Industries has like really high quality tutorials that are easy to understand for the most part. But if there was ever a point where I was not quite understanding something, I would go to Big Flips' channel. Also, Big Flips has an incredibly robust collection of videos where he covers basically every trick under the sun. So while Squid Industries YouTube is very good for getting people into it and also building the repertoire, I think Big Flips is also, if you want to go beyond the videos that Squid Industry has, there's so many videos. I have not gone through all of Big Flips' videos. So that's a place to begin. So getting used to learning these tricks, it's pretty cool to just get used to it. Personally, I remember thinking I was really bad when I was trying to learn how to fan on the Mako and the Vulp. Eventually, I realized that, they're just really handle biased. But, it is also partially just a skill that you're building up. And so I find that just, having the time to just fit this through your day wherever, part of why I love Balisongs is that I just carry them on me and I just flip it when I want. When I'm, going to the kitchen or whatever, I'll just fan here and there. I also like fans particularly because you're always holding a safe handle, you're never letting go of it, and so it's just it's the safest, easiest, and satisfying trick personally for me because you're always holding this handle. Chaplains sometimes, but you can drop it. Then at some point I think the kind of first big gate, the first wall that people hit, is the behind the 8 ball. Or if it's written down, it's shortened to BT8B. Behind the 8 ball is a combination of rollovers that ends you up on the other handle. And the behind the 8 ball also is usually combined with the helix, which is very similar, but instead of doing it on the interior, you do it on the exterior. Again, this is not a tutorial video. I recommend you watch Squid Industries videos. Also, I will say I watch the Wired video a lot. That is really hard to use to learn tricks. While it's a cool video, I don't recommend that for being like a tutorial. Because they do a lot of like forward and backward, and it's very confusing to look at. But the behind the 8 ball is one of those tricks that's really difficult to kind of get down. When you eventually do, though, it opens the world to you because it looks really cool and it's very satisfying. It feels very good to do. And the behind the 8 ball is usually always comboed into the helix, and that's where you get to combos. So the thing about the building blocks is that it's hard to kind of combo them into each other when your repertoire is very limited, because you only know like 4 or 5 tricks. It's okay. If you're brand new, that's great. We all started somewhere. It was not that long ago when I was bumbling and fucking dropping my Mako everywhere trying to just do really simple tricks, and that's okay. It's totally okay, because you're learning and you're growing, and you have to be okay with being not good at something. As Jake the dog says, sucking at something is the first step to being kind of okay at something along the lines of that. But yeah, you just have to be comfortable with failure and growing and changing, because yeah, it can be frustrating, especially if you're using a live blade and you cut yourself and then you have to wait for it to heal, which is why I use a trainer. But you have to be comfortable with the fact that you're not going to get it on your first try. You're going to take time to learn things, and even if you do get something on the first try, there's still times where you hit walls. I am still struggling with the short stop, which is like I can, yeah, fuck me, I guess. There we go. But it wasn't super smooth, and that's okay. You have to be okay with kind of the breakdown of things and the intermediates of stuff. At some point, though, you're gonna want to learn how to combo things, and that's a little tricky. I guess you could also argue that the twirl is one of the building blocks, but I think the twirl is kind of in the chaplain. So for me, my favorite combo, as I've talked about before, I think is, if I'm open, or whatever, let's say I'm open, I do an extended full twirl into I do an extended full twirl into a chaplain, into a thumb rollover, into a helix, and then there's something in there. There's a combination of thumb rollovers and a sort of a helix. But at some point, I found that this was a combo that looped into itself. Yeah, that's a helix. And it always ends up on the safe handle. Oh, actually, a lot of times I also add that it goes into a thumb rollover, into a ladder, and then I do a thumb rollover back onto the safe handle. So having a designated combo is it's kind of nice to learn. You want to learn all the basic individual blocks first. So again, having those the building blocks. What's cool about Squid Industries is that they have their video tutorials is that they have combos at the end. So they have beginner combos, intermediate combos, and advanced combos of how you can slot those tricks into it. And if you're just starting out, I would say you can watch them, but don't really try them yet. Wait until you feel when you feel comfortable doing a fan and a chaplain and a rollover for the most part. I will say that my parabolics, I get my success rate with a parabolic is 1 in 4 at best. Yeah, see, I botched it. I don't always get the parabolic, but I feel like at that point, the parabolic is a trick that I know well enough that I can try and do it in a combo if I wanted to. I just have to be okay with not succeeding. And so those were some pseudo successful parabolics, and you just have to try and learn them. When you learn combos, you then start to be able to be more comfortable transferring from a trick to another trick. So, for example, the full twirl, and then you want to say, let's stick my thumb through this, and let's do a helix into that. Now I'm on the bite side handle. What do I want to do from here? I don't know. Typically, I can't chaplain from the bite side, so maybe I'll do a fan, and then from here with my blade down, I'll figure something out. And that's okay to, not really know what you're doing. I think especially with the trainer, it's okay to just kind of dick around and flail around with these handles and figure out, what's something that I can do. And eventually at some point you start to have these tricks that you are comfortable with because you've been practicing the individual tricks until you're confident in them, and then you're exploring new things. The second thing of getting better, you're exploring new things by trying to connect these things, and sometimes, it doesn't always work, but that's okay because let's be real, this is a toy. We're playing. It's okay to play, and part of playing is that it's fun to explore and have fun. It's like the joy of playing with Legos when you're young enough that you have the imagination to make it go wild. Man, Legos are so good. The point is, though, is that it's basically always these two things: getting better at what you already know and applying it, exploring, pushing new things. I guess you could break that down into smaller things like applying it into a greater context or learning new things. But essentially, it's solidifying your foundation and building on top of that. Be aware that you're not magically good at things. You don't just pick things up and you're able to do them perfectly. You're going to struggle. You're going to struggle. It's okay to struggle. It's okay to fail. It's okay to lose. This is a toy. We're having fun. We're playing with it. And so sometimes people get frustrated and they quit. And who am I to tell them not to? But I find that, if you're going to sink money into this expensive hobby, you might as well have fun learning it, Like, yeah, this is a cool thing. I was not sure if I was going to stick with this when I first got my Mako, my first ever Balisong. And so I got one that I wanted to be able to use a function because at worst I'll just have a silly, funny bottle opener. But, I just kept with it because I thought it was fun. It was neat. And so you just have to get comfortable with failure as well as pushing the boundaries of trying new things. I have at some point, part of why I made the plateau video is because I haven't learned new tricks in a long time. I haven't took the time to watch new tutorials. When Squid comes out with one, I usually do. And sometimes there are tricks that I learn, and then I forget. I realize that I forgot I know the behind the eight ball, but I don't remember the reverse behind the eight ball super well, which, oh gosh, I was just trying to do it. It's like, I think this is the reverse behind the eight ball. That was really bad. It's okay. You're not gonna have everything 100% all the time. And so I think that's just kind of the trick to just getting better. I'm also a professional musician, so I have literal decades of hitting the wall and trying to get better. When I went to music conservatory, and you're just in an environment where you're with people who are always just trying to push themselves and be the best. And that's another thing too. If you have someone else to learn with, if you find a community, that's great. If you have a buddy, I think Ty and Ethan from Blade Bias were learning battle songs together, and so that was something that they shared. I run a trans group chat slash Discord, and so I'm like one of the admins of it. If you're transgender or you're gender nonconforming, feel free to reach out to me if you want to find a community where you wish to be with like-minded people who wish to improve and grow. A lot of it is also just non-Balisong talk, and that's fine because also part of why I still do what I do is the community. There's also just the ability to do what you do completely divorced from the community, and that's fine. That's fair. You don't have to interface with it. There are a lot of weirdos in the community, but having someone to learn with, to share your passion with this alongside, it's fun. It's really great, and I think it makes a lot of difference. So hopefully you find this helpful. I found that my difficulties with getting the behind the eight ball down was really hard at first. Comboing was really hard at first. I remember watching Blade Bias's video about like how to combo better and being frustrated, be like, this didn't help me. I'm not better. You just have to take time to learn and try and explore things. Uh, just be safe and have fun. That's really all there is to it, I think. And if you want any advice, reach out to me. But I am someone that I'm a decent flipper, but I am by no means the best. And there are a lot of people. Oh, that's the other thing. Don't compare yourself to the fucking best people ever. It's really easy to see the best people ever, especially on Instagram, because you see the coolest stuff. It gets floated because it's the most like, and then you compare yourself to the best people ever, and you're like, oh man, I'm no good at this. I'm garbage. I'm bad. Um, well, bad is arbitrary. Uh, there's actually a really great Leon Massey video about I'm bad. That's about fighting games, which is another thing. Fighting games and music and battle songs, it's a lot of stuff where you have to just build skill and be comfortable where you're not going to be the best ever, unless you want to try and be, in which case, feel free to dedicate your time to that. But also understand that holding yourself to the standard of the very best is not healthy unless you're using it as a goal to improve, opposed to I'm not good enough because I'll never be that good, or I can't do that, I'm not good enough. So again, it's when you find community, it's helpful because then you realize that people are of all different skill levels, and I'm pretty transparent about what I can and cannot do. I personally have a really hard time using aerials in combos. Most of my aerials are closers, so that's something I'm transparent about. Anyways, using the best people as like the goal is really, it's cool, but also that's like trying to say like, oh, I'm bad at basketball because I'm not as good as Michael Jordan in his peak. Like, what? I'm never gonna be good at fighting games because I can't beat Daigo, or I am so garbage at my instrument. I am not as good as the fucking principal violinist of the New York Philharmonic. Whatever, example. The point is that yeah, there are high bar, but there are also many, 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 many bars in between, and you can find people around your skill level, improve alongside them, watch tutorials, and just have fun doing it. Part of why I hate practicing my instrument was because it's work. Part of why I hate practicing voice training is because it makes me dysphoric. But you can't get better without practicing, and you might as well have fun doing it, because I find that battle songs, part of why I am just so passionate about this is because I just find it fun, and I have no hard, fast deadline or goal to be this good by this time to be able to do this thing for this. If you want to do Ballycomp, by all means, go for it. I personally have no interest in competing in battle songs. I think a measurement of skill can be relatively arbitrary. I think there are so many people who are much more skilled than I am, and I find that very inspiring. And I want to get better. I want to get better and learn how to do more tricks. And I see all these people with battle songs, and I'm like, I should learn that. I should take the time to learn that. But I also think that it's okay to plateau at times and stumble along your way through it. So if you find yourself frustrated, maybe take a break for a little bit, but come back to it. There's a lot that you can do. And I find that at least when you can break that initial threshold of learning your basic blocks and getting the behind the eight ball into the helix down, that's kind of like, that opens the world for you. Because then you can start to fuck around with combos, and that then opens the world even further, and it becomes like this a flood of like wanting to learn to try new things, and it's exciting, and you should have fun with it. So that's my, I guess now I'm gonna finally wrap up for real. But this is my talk on how to get better, at least focusing on battle songs. I actually have a similar talk with networking in the games industry on my main channel. Um, and yeah, I guess if you like my content, subscribe. I do daily uploads. I think I'm probably going to slow down at some point because I, at some point, felt backed up and I wasn't recording as many things because I was watching AGDQ. But I do this for fun. I make these videos for fun because I'm passionate about this. And if you like what I do, check out the coffee in the description because a little bit goes a long way. It helps me justify spending all this time doing this. And like the video, share it with your friends. If you're also a beginner, check out my playlist on a lot of the basic Balisong terminology breakdown. And there are so many other great creators out there on YouTube who uh, they have lots of great things to say. I'm sure you'll find them and have fun. Honestly, that's the most important thing. Have fun. Also, watch your wallet. Watch your spending, because holy shit.